I speak to you tonight about a principle so profound, yet so simple, that many of you may dismiss it at first. But I tell you with absolute conviction, the most important focus of your life must be yourself. Not the self that the world knows, but the self that is your true identity, your divine nature, your I am. When I say focus on yourself, I am not speaking of the outer self that you present to the world. I speak of that deeper self, that infinite being within you that is God. For you must understand this fundamental truth: your consciousness, your I amness is God. This is not blasphemy. This is the deepest truth of Scripture, hidden in plain sight for those with eyes to see. Consider the words, "Be still and know that I am God." These words are not speaking of a distant deity in some far-off heaven. They speak of your own wonderful human imagination, your own consciousness. When you truly focus on yourself, you are focusing on God, for you and the Father are one. Many of you come to me asking about manifestation, about creating your desires in the external world. But I tell you now, all manifestation begins with self-focus, with the recognition of who you really are. For how can you manifest anything if you do not first understand that you are the operant power? You are the God of your universe. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. When you focus on yourself, your true self, you are focusing on the only creative power in existence. All things come from within. There is no other source. The world you see now is nothing more than your consciousness pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every condition in your life is yourself pushed out. Do you understand the magnitude of this truth? Everything you see, everything you experience is yourself made visible. Therefore, to change anything in your world, you must first change yourself. Not the outer self, but your conception of yourself, your inner knowing. When I speak of focusing on yourself, I am speaking of assuming the state of consciousness of the person you wish to be. This is not about changing your actions first. Actions follow consciousness. First, you must focus on being the person who would naturally have, do, or be what you desire. Let me give you the perfect example from Scripture. When David faced Goliath, he didn't focus on the giant before him. He focused on himself as the victor. He dwelt in the consciousness of victory before a single stone was thrown. This is the secret that most of the world has missed. David focused on himself as the winner, not on the problem before him. You see, most people have it backwards. They focus on what they want to change in their external world. They focus on their problems, their limitations, their current circumstances. But I tell you now, this is like trying to change your reflection in the mirror by arguing with the mirror. You must change yourself, and the reflection will change automatically. When I tell you to focus on yourself, I am telling you to focus on the state you wish to occupy. If you want wealth, focus on yourself as wealthy. If you want love, focus on yourself as loved. If you want success, focus on yourself as successful. But then this is crucial. You must do this from the inside out. Consider this. Every night before you sleep, where does your focus go? Most of you focus on the events of the day, the problems you face, the things you lack. But I tell you, this is the exact opposite of what you should do. Instead, focus on yourself in the state of your wish fulfilled. Feel yourself to be the person who has what you desire. Many of you may be thinking, but Wayne, isn't this selfish? Shouldn't we focus on others? Let me be very clear, there are no others. What you see as others are aspects of yourself pushed out. Therefore, when you truly focus on yourself, your highest self, your divine self, you are focusing on all of humanity. For we are all one consciousness, individualized into seemingly separate beings. The great secret that the mystics and prophets have tried to share throughout the ages is this: your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, springs from your consciousness. Therefore, focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is the most profound act of creation you can engage in. Let me share with you a technique I have often used and taught. When you go into the silence of your own being, focus on yourself as having already achieved your desire. Do not think of how it will happen. Do not think of the process. Think only of the end, of the person you would be when your desire is fulfilled. If you wish to be wealthy, do not focus on making money. Focus on yourself as someone who is already wealthy. Feel the naturalness of wealth. Feel how you would feel if wealth were your natural state. Feel the security, the freedom, the peace that comes with wealth. This is focusing on yourself in the proper way. If you seek love, do not focus on finding someone to love you. Focus on yourself as someone who is deeply loved and cherished. Feel how you would feel if perfect love were your natural state. Feel the warmth, the security, the joy of being completely loved. This is focusing on yourself in the state of the wish fulfilled. Some of you might be wondering, but what about action? Don't we need to do something? Yes, action will come, but it will come naturally and effortlessly when you are properly focused on yourself in the state of the wish fulfilled. The actions will flow from your new state of consciousness, not from your current state of lack. Remember the story of Moses parting the Red Sea. He didn't focus on the impossibility before him. He didn't focus on the problem. He focused on himself as one who had the power to lead his people to safety. His focus on himself as the deliverer created the miracle. The sea parted not because of what he did, but because of who he knew himself to be. This is the true meaning of focusing on yourself. It is not about ego. It is not about selfishness. It is about recognizing and claiming your divine nature. It is about understanding that you are the operant power in your world. Everything you see, everything you experience is beautifully created. When you walk through your day, remember this truth. The world you see is yourself pushed out. Every person you meet is yourself pushed out. Every circumstance you encounter is yourself pushed out. Therefore, to change anything, focus on yourself, not the outer self, but the inner self, the consciousness from which all things spring. I want you to grasp this principle so deeply that it becomes the foundation of your entire life. Your consciousness is the only reality. Your I am-ness is God. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, your true self, you are focusing on the creative power of the universe. Do not make the mistake of thinking that focusing on yourself means becoming self-centered in the egotistical sense. This is not about the personality, the outer self. This is about recognizing and claiming your divine nature. This is about understanding that you are the operant power in your world. Let me share with you another profound truth. The state you focus on becomes your reality. If you focus on yourself as limited, as lacking, as unable, that becomes your reality. But you focus on yourself as the embodiment of success, of abundance, of love, that becomes your reality. The choice is yours. And you make this choice through your focus. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. While in prison, he didn't focus on his circumstances. He focused on himself as the interpreter of dreams, as one who had a divine gift. His focus on himself in this elevated state led him from the prison to the palace. This is the power of proper self-focus. Many of you spend your days focusing on what's wrong in your life, what's missing, what needs to be fixed. But I tell you now, this is the opposite of what you should do. Instead, focus on yourself as the person who has what you desire. Feel yourself to be that person. Live from that state. The world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, when you focus on yourself properly, you are focusing on the cause, not the effect. You are focusing on the root, not the fruit. You are focusing on the creator, not the creation. When you go to sleep tonight, I want you to focus on yourself as the person you wish to be. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Feel how that person would feel. Let this feeling saturate your consciousness. This is not imagination in the fantasy sense. This is using your imagination as the creative power it truly is. Remember, your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, your body, your circumstances, your relationships, your possessions, these are all effects. They are all yourself pushed out. Therefore, to change any effect, you must change the cause. And the cause is always your consciousness, your concept of yourself. Let me be very clear about this when I tell you to focus on yourself. I am telling you to focus on the state of consciousness you wish to occupy. If you want health, focus on yourself as healthy. If you want wealth, focus on yourself as wealthy. If you want love, focus on yourself as loved. But do this from the inside out, not the outside in. Many of you try to change things from the outside in. You try to change your circumstances first, hoping that this will change how you feel about yourself. But this is backwards. You must change yourself first, your concept of yourself, your inner knowing. And then the outer world will conform to this new self-concept. Think of it this way. Everything you see in your world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, if you don't like what you see, don't try to change the outer picture. Change yourself, your concept of yourself, and the outer picture must change to match your new self-concept. This is why focusing on yourself is so crucial. Not the self that the world knows, but the self that is your true identity. Focus on yourself as the person who already has what you desire. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Live from that state. Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state you occupy is the state that manifests. If you occupy the state of lack, lack manifests. If you occupy the state of abundance, abundance manifests. If you occupy the state of love, love manifests. This is law. Therefore, when you focus on yourself in the state you wish to manifest. If you want success, focus on yourself as successful. Feel how you would feel if success were your natural state. Let this feeling saturate your consciousness until it becomes your dominant state. Many of you make the mistake of trying to change things in your outer world while maintaining the same concept of yourself. But I tell you now, this is impossible. The outer world can only reflect your concept of yourself. It cannot be otherwise. Think of yourself as a radio broadcasting station. Whatever frequency you broadcast, whatever state you occupy, that is what manifests in your world. Therefore, to change your world, change your broadcast. Change your concept of yourself. When you go into meditation or prayer, do not focus on what you want to change in your outer world. Focus on yourself as the person who already has what you desire. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Let this feeling saturate your consciousness. Remember, the feeling is the secret, not the intellectual understanding, not the affirmations, not the visualizations, although these can be helpful tools. The feeling of being the person who already has what you desire is the key. Let me give you a practical application of this principle. If you want more money in your life, do not focus on getting money. Focus on yourself as someone who naturally has money. Feel how you would feel if money were your natural state. Feel the security, the freedom, the peace that comes with having money. If you want better relationships, do not focus on finding the right person or fixing your current relationships. Focus on yourself as someone who naturally experiences wonderful relationships. Feel how you would feel if perfect relationships were your natural state. The world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, whatever you focus on in yourself becomes your reality. If you focus on lack, lack manifests. If you focus on abundance, abundance manifests. If you focus on love, love manifests. This is law. Many of you spend your time trying to manipulate the outer world, trying to make things happen, trying to control circumstances and people. But I tell you now, this is unnecessary. Focus on yourself, your concept of yourself. And the outer world must conform to this self-concept. Remember, there is only one cause in all creation, and that cause is consciousness, your I am-ness. Therefore, when you focus on yourself properly, you are focusing on the only creative power in existence. Let me share with you another profound truth. The state you accept as real is the state that manifests. If you accept yourself as limited, limitation manifests. If you accept yourself as abundant, abundance manifests. If you accept yourself as love, love manifests. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, focus on accepting the state you wish to manifest. Accept it as real. Accept it as natural. Accept it as your true state. This acceptance is crucial. Many of you struggle with accepting the state you desire because your senses tell you otherwise. But I tell you now, your senses only show you what has been manifested from past states of consciousness. They cannot show you what is possible. I think of it this way. Your senses can only show you what has been. They cannot show you what can be. Therefore, do not let your senses dictate your concept of yourself. Choose the concept you wish to embody and focus on that. When you go to sleep tonight, I want you to focus on yourself as the person you wish to be. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Accept this as your true state. Let this acceptance saturate your consciousness until it becomes your dominant state. Remember, the outer world can only reflect your concept of yourself. It cannot be otherwise. Therefore, if you want to change your outer world, change your concept of yourself. This is the true meaning of focusing on yourself. Many of you make the mistake of trying to change things in your outer world while maintaining the same concept of yourself. But I tell you now, this is like trying to change your reflection in the mirror by arguing with the mirror. You must change yourself and the reflection will change automatically. Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state you persist in is the state that manifests. If you persist in the state of lack, lack manifests. If you persist in the state of abundance, abundance manifests. If you persist in the state of love, love manifests. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, persist in the state you wish to manifest. If you want success, persist in seeing yourself as successful. Feel how you would feel if success were your natural state. Let this feeling become so familiar that it becomes your dominant state. Remember, persistence is crucial. You cannot occupy a state for a moment and expect it to manifest. You must persist in the state until it becomes your natural state, your dominant state. Many of you give up too soon. You occupy a state for a day or two, see no results, and return to your old state. But I tell you now, persistence is key. Persist in the state you wish to manifest, regardless of appearances. Think of it this way: when you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust the law of growth. In the same way, when you plant a new concept of yourself, trust the law of manifestation. Persist in the state, regardless of appearances. Let me share with you another profound truth. The state you believe in is the state that manifests. If you believe in limitation, limitation manifests. If you believe in abundance, abundance manifests. If you believe in love, love manifests. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, focus on believing in the state you wish to manifest. Believe in it completely. Believe in it naturally. Believe in it, your true state. This belief is crucial. Many of you struggle with believing in the state you desire because your past experiences tell you otherwise. But I tell you now, your past experiences only show you what has been manifested from past beliefs. They cannot show you what is possible with new beliefs. Think of it this way. Your past experiences can only show you what has been. They cannot show you what can be. Therefore, do not let your past experiences dictate your beliefs about yourself. Choose the beliefs you wish to embody and focus on those. When you go about your day, I want you to focus on yourself as the person you wish to be. Believe in this version of yourself completely. Accept it as your true state. Let this belief saturate your consciousness until it becomes your dominant state. Remember, the outer world can only reflect your beliefs about yourself. It cannot be otherwise. Therefore, if you want to change your outer world, change your beliefs about yourself. This is the true meaning of focusing on yourself. Let me share with you one final principle. The state you live from is the state that manifests. If you live from lack, lack manifests. If you live from abundance, abundance manifests. If you live from love, love manifests. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, focus on living from the state you wish to manifest. If you want success, live from the state of success. Feel how you would feel if success were your natural state. Let this feeling guide your thoughts, your words, your actions. Remember, living from a state is different from trying to achieve a state. When you live from a state, you are that state now. When you try to achieve a state, you push it into the future. Many of you make the mistake of putting your desired state into the future. You say, I will be successful, I will be wealthy, I will be loved. But I tell you now, this keeps your desire forever. There is a man who walks alone, surrounded not by the laughter of companions, but by the quiet echoes of his own thoughts. In his solitude, there is no friend to speak of, no hand to shake, no embrace to share. Yet in the silence of his existence lies the profound secret of the divine connection the world would call such a man lonely, an outcast. Perhaps, but they see only with mortal eyes. They measure his life by the absence of voices around him, forgetting that the absence of noise often reveals the whispers of the eternal. This man without friends is not abandoned, but invited to discover that the greatest friendship he will ever know resides within his own soul. To be alone is not to be forsaken. It is to be chosen. For in this sacred isolation, a man can finally hear the call of the infinite. His solitude becomes the fertile ground where the seeds of divine truth are sown. In the stillness, he is taught the greatest lesson, that God himself is his companion, his confidant, his eternal friend. This friendship requires no validation from the world, for it is unshaken by time, untouched by betrayal, and unbroken by death. A man with no friends carries a heavy cross, but that very cross leads him to the heights of spiritual awareness. He learns to walk by faith and not by sight, to trust in the unseen arms that hold him steady while others seek comfort in fleeting relationships. He finds solace in the unwavering presence of the divine. He becomes a vessel filled not with the fleeting approval of men, but with the boundless love of the Creator. This man, seemingly alone, is far from empty. In fact, he is the richest among men, for he has uncovered the truth that eludes many. The kingdom of God is within him. Every step he takes is guided, every breath he draws is sanctified, and every tear he sheds is caught by the hand of his eternal friend. His isolation transforms into revelation, and his solitude becomes a sanctuary. So as he walks this path with no companions in sight, he is not burdened by the absence of others. Instead, he is liberated by the presence of the divine. He learns that he is never truly alone, for the God who created the heavens and the earth dwells within him, whispers to his heart and walks beside him. Always this man, in the quietness of his solitude, begins to see the world differently. Where others see emptiness, he discovers fullness. The laughter of children, the rustling of leaves, the faint hum of the wind, all become symphonies of the divine. He understands that what he once thought of as silence is, in truth, a sacred dialogue where the soul communes with the infinite. The absence of voices allows him to hear what truly matters, the voice within that says, "You are mine and I am yours," as he walks through life without the companionship of others. He notices that his heart begins to soften in ways it never had before. Compassion swells within him, not because he seeks to win favor, but because he now sees himself in everyone. The separation that once defined his existence starts to dissolve. He understands that while he may lack human friends, he is intricately connected to all creation. Every face he passes is a mirror reflecting the divine spark that resides within him. The man learns to stand firmly in his truth, unshaken by the opinions of the world, for a man with no friends often discovers the courage to stop pretending. He no longer seeks to mold himself to fit the expectations of others. Instead, he grows into the fullness of who he was created to be. The approval he once sought from friends is replaced by the assurance that he is already approved by the Creator. In his solitude, he finds authenticity, a gift more precious than the shallow comforts of empty companionship. There are nights when loneliness grips him tightly, when the silence feels more like a void than a sanctuary. Yet even in those moments, he learns to press deeper into the mystery of his existence. The tears he sheds become prayers, and the ache in his heart becomes a call to the divine. Through this pain, he grows. He understands that suffering is not punishment, but a tool for refinement. Just as gold is purified by fire, so too is his soul purified in the furnace of solitude. In time, he realizes that his journey is not one of lack, but of abundance. While others surround themselves with people, yet feel an emptiness within, he discovers the fullness of life and his connection to the divine. He walks with the quiet confidence of a man who knows that every step is guided, every path is purposeful. He is no longer tethered to the need for validation, for he knows that he is seen, heard, and deep, beloved by the one who created him. His solitude teaches him patience without the distractions of social noise. He learns to wait upon the divine. He begins to understand that life unfolds not on his terms, but on the terms of the eternal. This waiting is not passive, but active, a practice of trust. He learns to rest in the assurance that all things are working together for his good. His solitude is not a punishment, but a preparation, a sacred space, where the divine molds him into the man he is meant to become. As he continues his journey, he begins to notice a transformation within himself. The bitterness that once threatened to consume him is replaced by gratitude. He no longer sees himself as a victim of circumstance, but as a participant in a grand design. The absence of friends is no longer a burden, but a blessing, for it has freed him to deepen his relationship with the divine. He sees that what the world calls emptiness is, in truth, an invitation to fullness of fullness that can only be found within. Through his solitude, he becomes a man of strength, a man of vision. He learns that the true measure of a man is not in the number of friends he has, but in the depth of his character, the strength of his spirit. He becomes a beacon, a light in the darkness for others who feel lost and alone. His journey, though solitary, is not without purpose. It serves as a testimony to the transformative power of divine friendship. He begins to understand that his life is not his own, that he is part of something far greater than himself. The solitude that once felt like a curse now feels like a calling. He is called to be a vessel to carry the light of the divine into a world that often feels dark and cold. His isolation becomes his strength, for it has taught him to rely not on the fleeting comforts of human relationships, but on the eternal assurance of the divine. The man realizes that love is not something he lacks, but something he is. He becomes a channel for this love, allowing it to flow through him to others. Though he may not have friends in the traditional sense, he touches lives in ways that words cannot describe. His kindness, his compassion, his unwavering faith all become a testament to the truth that he has discovered. He no longer needs friends to define his worth, for he knows that his worth is infinite, bestowed upon him by the Creator. In the stillness of his solitude, he discovers the power of imagination with no one to distract him. He learns to create a world within himself, a world where all things are possible. He begins to see his life not as a series of random events, but as a canvas painted with the brush strokes of his thoughts and beliefs. He understands that his solitude is not a limitation, but an opportunity to shape his reality, to align his inner world with the divine vision for his life. As he continues to walk this path, he becomes a man of peace. The storms of life no longer unsettle him, for he has found a sanctuary within himself. He knows that he is never truly alone, for the divine presence is always with him, guiding him, comforting him, loving him. His life becomes a living testament to the truth that the greatest friendship we will ever know is the one we cultivate with the divine. And so he walks forward not in loneliness, but in the fullness of divine companionship. A man who is truly never alone. The man walks with a quiet resolve, carrying within him the realization that life is not measured by the relationships he lacks, but by the depth of the connection he has cultivated with the unseen. Each day he awakens not with a sense of despair over his solitude, but with a profound gratitude for the opportunity to delve deeper into the mysteries of his own being. He no longer views his life through the lens of absence. Instead, he sees it as a space where the divine can dwell fully, unhindered by distractions. He begins to notice the subtle beauty in moments that others might overlook. The rising sun becomes a reminder of renewal, a symbol of hope, that each day carries the potential for transformation. The stars at night are no longer distant lights, but companions in the vastness of creation, whispering the truths of eternity. The man finds that the world itself becomes a friend, offering lessons, comfort, and wisdom in ways he never imagined. Every breath becomes a prayer, every step a sacred act, every thought an opportunity to align with the divine. Through his solitude, he gains clarity without the noise of opinions and expectations. He can finally hear the voice of his own soul. This voice, though soft, carries with it the power of truth. It reminds him that he is not defined by the relationships he has or lacks, but by the essence of who he is, a child of the divine made in its image, carrying within him the seed of infinite potential. In this realization, he finds a freedom that few ever experience, a liberation from the need to seek validation from the world. The man's journey is not without its challenges. There are moments when the weight of solitude feels unbearable, when he longs for a friend to share his thoughts and dreams. Yet even in these moments, he discovers a strength within himself that he never knew he had. He learns that the longing he feels is not for mere companionship, but for something far greater, a union with the divine that transcends the fleeting nature of human relationships. This longing drives him deeper into his spiritual practice, pushing him to seek and find the presence that has been with him all along. In his solitude, he becomes attuned to the rhythms of life. He begins to see the patterns and cycles that govern existence, the ebb and flow of seasons, the rise and fall of tides. These natural rhythms mirror the journey of his own soul, teaching him to embrace both the highs and the lows, the joy and the sorrow. He learns that just as the earth rests in winter to prepare for the bloom of spring, so too must his soul rest in solitude to prepare for its own blossoming. The man's solitude teaches him humility. He no longer sees himself as the center of the universe, but as a part of a vast interconnected hope. This humility allows him to let go of his ego, to release the need to control or manipulate. He learns to surrender, to trust that the divine plan for his life is far greater than anything he could conceive. In this surrender, he finds peace, a peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that fills the void as solitude, once created through his journey. The man becomes a vessel for wisdom. The insights he gains in his solitude are not meant for him alone, but for the world. He begins to share his experiences, not with the intention of gaining recognition, but with the hope of guiding others who feel lost and alone. His words carry the weight of authenticity, for they are born from a place of deep understanding. He becomes a light for those still searching, a beacon that points the way to the truth he has discovered. The man also learns the art of gratitude in his solitude. He realizes that every moment is a gift, every breath a blessing. He begins to give thanks, not only for the joys in his life, but also for the challenges, for he understands that both are necessary for his growth. Gratitude becomes his constant companion, a practice that transforms his perspective and opens his heart to the abundance that surrounds him. He no longer focuses on what he lacks, but on what he has. And in this shift, he discovers a richness that surpasses anything the world can offer. As the days turn into weeks and the weeks into years, the man's solitude becomes a sanctuary, a sacred space where he can retreat and reconnect with divine. He begins to cherish this time alone, seeing it not as a burden but as a blessing. It is in this space that he finds clarity, strength, and purpose. He understands that his solitude is not a punishment but a privilege, an opportunity to grow closer to the source of all creation. The man's journey transforms him in ways he never imagined. He becomes a man of faith, a man of purpose. His solitude, once a source of pain, becomes the foundation of his strength. He no longer fears being alone, for he knows that he is never truly alone. The divine presence that has guided him through his journey is always with him, a constant source of love, wisdom, and strength. In this realization, the man finds a joy that cannot be shaken, a peace that cannot be disturbed, a love that cannot be broken. His solitude, far from being a curse, has become the greatest gift, his life a gift, that has allowed him to discover the truth of who he is and the boundless love of the divine. And so he continues to walk his path, not in loneliness, but in the fullness of divine companionship. A man who is truly free to the man, having embraced his solitude as a divine calling, begins to experience a profound shift in his awareness. He realizes that the absence of friends has stripped away the layers of illusion he once clung to without the constant mirroring of others' expectations. He discovers his true self, a self that is unshaken by external circumstances, a self that is rooted in the eternal. In this newfound awareness, the man sees that his life is not bound by limitations, but brimming with infinite possibilities. He understands that the solitude he once resisted is the soil in which the seeds of his destiny are planted. Till the quiet of his isolation, those seeds are not captured by his thoughts, his faith, and his unwavering belief in the unseen. He learns that what he holds in his mind with conviction will manifest in his reality. For the outer world is but a reflection of his inner state. Journey through solitude leads him to master the art of imagination with no distractions. His mind becomes a canvas upon which he paints the life he desires. He learns to see beyond appearances, to envision a reality that aligns with the deepest desires of his heart. He begins to understand that his imagination is not merely a tool for escape, but a divine faculty, a creative force that shapes his experience by dwelling on what he wishes to create rather than what he lacks. He steps into the role of a creator, co-laboring with the divine to bring his vision to life. The man also learns to cherish the present moment in the silence of his solitude. He discovers the past and future are illusions, mere constructs of the mind. The only reality is the present, and it is in this present moment that he finds the fullness of life. He realizes that the divine is not distant or far off, but present in every breath, every heartbeat, every ray of sunlight that touches his face. This awareness transforms his solitude into a sanctuary, a sacred space where he communes with the infinite. As the man grows in his understanding, he begins to radiate a quiet confidence that draws others to him. Though he has no friends in the traditional sense, he becomes a source of inspiration for those who encounter him. His presence carries a sense of peace, a depth that cannot be faked or manufactured. People sense that he has tapped into something profound, something eternal, and they are drawn to the light that emanates from within him. The man's solitude also deepens his compassion. He no longer sees others as separate from himself, but as reflections of the same divine essence that dwells within him. This realization dissolves the barriers of judgment and fear, replacing them with love and understanding. He learns to forgive not only others, but also himself, for he understands that all are on a journey of becoming, a journey that is guided by grace to his solitude. He becomes attuned to the subtle whispers of the divine without the noise of the world to drown it out. He hears the voice of intuition, the inner knowing that guides him on his path. He learns to trust this voice, to follow its leading, even when it defies logic or reason. In doing so, he discovers a life of alignment, a life where synchronicities abound and doors open effortlessly. He sees that his solitude has not isolated him, but has connected him more deeply to the flow of life. To see the man's journey also teaches him resilience, without the safety net of friendships to fall back on. He learns to rely on his inner strength. He becomes like a tree that grows strong and deep roots in the absence of shelter, capable of withstanding the storms of life. His solitude becomes his teacher, revealing to him the depths of his courage and the boundlessness of his spirit. He learns that true strength is not found in numbers, but in the quiet assurance that he is never alone. Over time, the man realizes that his solitude has given him a gift that few ever receive, the gift of knowing himself in the absence of external distractions. He has been forced to confront his fears, his insecurities, his doubts, but in doing so, he has also discovered his dreams, his passions, his purpose. He understands that his solitude has not diminished him, but has revealed the truth of who he is, a being of light, love, and infinite potential. The man comes to see his life as a journey of unfolding, a process of becoming who he was always meant to be. His solitude, far from being a hindrance, has been the catalyst for his transformation. It has stripped away the superficial to reveal the sacred, replacing emptiness with a fullness that can never be taken away. He walks through life with a quiet joy, a knowing that he is not defined by the relationships he has or lacks, but by the relationship he has cultivated with the divine. Through this path is solitary. It is not without purpose. He understands that his life is a message, a testament to the power of faith, imagination, and love. He sees that his journey is not for him alone, but for all who feel lost, lonely, or forgotten. His story becomes a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the absence of friends, one can find a companionship that surpasses all understanding, a companionship with the divine that is eternal, unshackable, and infinitely loving. The man once burdened by the weight of solitude now walks with the likeness of one who has discovered the truth of his being. He knows that he is never truly alone, for the presence that sustains the universe also sustains it in truth. He finds freedom, joy, and peace, a peace that fills every corner of his being and overflows into the world around him. He lives not as a man with no friends, but as a man who has found the greatest friend of all. The divine presence within the man's journey into solitude deepens further, and with each passing moment, he discovers nuances about himself and his relationship with the divine that he had never before considered. It becomes evident to him that the state of having no friends has stripped away the external identities he once wore, leaving him by yet authentically himself. He realizes this shedding is not a loss, but a divine act of preparation, preparing him for a higher understanding of love, life, and purpose. And in this state, he begins to reflect on the nature of dependency. Once he relied on others to affirm his worth, to validate his dreams, and to offer him the comfort of companionship, but in their absence, he has had no choice but to turn inward. This turning inward reveals a wellspring of strength he had not known existed. He learns to comfort himself with the assurance that the divine presence within is more steadfast and unconditional than any human relationship could ever be. This understanding fills the spaces that once felt empty, transforming his solitude into a profound experience of wholeness. A man finds himself more attuned to the beauty and interconnectedness of all creation. A bird song in the early morning speaks to him of joy. A blooming flower reminds him of resilience, and the steady flow of a river mirrors the persistence of life's energy. To these moments, once overlooked, now carry profound meaning, and he realizes that life itself is always communicating with him. Even in his aloneness, he is surrounded by a living, breathing universe that speaks directly to his soul. In these moments, he begins to understand that his solitude has granted him the gift of presence, no longer pulled in many directions by the demands of others. He can focus his full attention on the here and now. She notices the way sunlight dances through the leaves, the way his breath feels as it fills his lungs, and the subtle shifts of energy within him as he aligns with the divine. These simple observations become gateways to a deeper reality, a reality where he feels fully alive and connected, then begins to experience the profound joy of creating his life from within. He discovers that his thoughts are not fleeting occurrences, but powerful seeds that shape his reality. With this realization, he becomes intentional about what he dwells upon. Lee learns to guard his mind to replace those of lack and fear with those of abundance and love. As he does so, he notices his external circumstances begin to change, almost as if the world is rearranging itself to match the inner transformation taking place to his solitude. He becomes a man of deep faith. A faith no longer feels like a distant concept or a set of rituals, but a living, breathing trust in the unseen. He learns to move forward with confidence even when the path ahead is unclear, because he knows that the divine presence within him is always guiding him. This faith becomes his anchor, a source of unwavering strength in the face of uncertainty. As time passes, the man realizes that his solitude has given him an incredible sense of freedom. Without the need to conform to the expectations of friends or society, he is free to be entirely himself. This freedom allows him to explore his passions, to pursue his dreams, and to express his authentic self without fear of judgment. He discovers a joy in living that is unshaken by external circumstances, a joy that comes from the simple act of being. His solitude also teaches him patience. He learns to trust in the timing of his life, understanding that every moment, whether joyful or challenging, is part of a greater plan. This patience allows him to release the need for control, to surrender to the flow of life, and to trust that all is unfolding exactly as it should. In this surrender, he finds a peace that transcends understanding, a peace that becomes the foundation of his life. The man begins to view his solitude as a sacred space, a time of preparation for something greater. He understands that the lessons he is learning now are shaping him into the person he is meant to become. He sees that his journey is not about avoiding loneliness, but about embracing it as a path to deeper self-discovery and connection with the divine. This shift in perspective transforms his solitude from a burden into a blessing. In his aloneness, he becomes more attuned to the needs of others. Paradoxically, his solitude deepens his empathy, for he knows what it feels like to be misunderstood, to feel isolated, to long for connection. His understanding allows him to approach others with compassion, to see them not as separate from himself, but as reflections of the same divine essence. His heart opens, and he becomes a source of love and light to those around him. The man's life becomes a testament to the power of solitude. He no longer sees himself as a man with no friends, but as a man who has found the greatest companionship within his journey is not one of isolation, but of union with himself, with the divine and with the greater whole of creation. In his solitude, he has discovered a richness that no external relationship could ever provide. A richness that flows from the infinite wellspring of the divine within. The man grows increasingly aware of the vastness of his inner world and expands previously unexplored because of the distractions of external relationships. In the quiet of his solitude, he discovers the mind is like fertile soil, capable of cultivating thoughts, dreams and visions that align with the life he deeply, deeply desires. He begins to see himself not as a passive observer of life, but as its architect, realizing that his inner beliefs are the blueprints from which his outer reality is constructed. Each day, he practices the discipline of turning inward, allowing his imagination to guide him. He visualizes himself surrounded by abundance, joy, and fulfillment, not as a distant dream, but as a present reality. These moments of deep connection with his inner self become sacred rituals, times when he feels the presence of the divine working through him, shaping his life in ways both seen and unseen. He understands that his ability to imagine and believe is not merely a gift, but a responsibility, for his thoughts are the seeds from which his future grows. Through this process, the man begins to shed the weight of all fears and insecurities. He no longer clings to the idea that he needs others to validate his worth or provide him with a sense of belonging. Instead, he finds his value in the unwavering truth that he is a creation of the divine, inherently worthy and infinitely loved. This realization transforms the way he sees himself and the world around him. He no longer views solitude as an absence, but as a fullness, a state where he can hear the whispers of the divine and feel its presence in every fiber of his being. As he continues to journey inward, the man notices that his perception of time begins to shift. The hours that once felt heavy with loneliness now seem to flow effortlessly, filled with meaning and purpose. He learns to savor each moment, understanding that life is not something to be rushed through, but experienced fully. This newfound appreciation for the present brings a sense of peace that permeates every aspect of his life. He no longer feels the need to chase after the approval of others or to fill his days with distractions. Instead, he finds joy in the simple act of being, in the stillness that allows him to connect with the divine essence within. The man's solitude also becomes a source of clarity without the noise of external influences. He begins to see his life with new eyes. He recognizes patterns and beliefs that no longer serve him and has the courage to let them go in their place. He cultivates new ways of thinking and being that align with his highest self. This process of inner transformation is not always easy, but he embraces it with faith, knowing that each step he takes brings him closer to the fullness of his divine potential. Over time, the man notices subtle yet profound changes in his outer reality. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach begin to present themselves, and the people he encounters reflect the love and authenticity he has cultivated within. He realizes that his solitude has not isolated him, but has prepared him to engage with the world in a deeper and more meaningful way. The relationships he now forms are not based on need or fear, but on mutual respect and shared purpose. These connections, though few in number, are rich and fulfilling, a testament to the transformation that has taken place within him. The man's journey through solitude also deepens his relationship with the divine. He comes to understand that the presence he feels within is the same presence that sustains the entire universe. This realization fills him with awe and gratitude, for he sees that he is not separate from the divine, but an expression of it. This awareness transforms his life into an act of worship, a celebration of the infinite love and wisdom that flows through him. In his solitude, the man becomes a beacon of light to others. Even if he does not seek to be, people are drawn to the peace and strength that emanate from him, sensing that he is tapped into something profound and eternal, though he does not rely on their admiration or approval. He welcomes the opportunity to share what he has learned. He speaks not from a place of superiority, but from a deep understanding of the human experience, offering encouragement and hope to those who feel lost or alone. The man's story is one of transformation, a testament to the power of solitude, and the divine presence within his journey has taught him that true fulfillment does not come from external circumstances, but from the inner alignment with the infinite. He has learned to see his solitude not as a limitation, but as a gift, a sacred space where he can grow, heal, and become the person he was always meant to be. In the stillness, he starts to confront the beliefs that have shaped his life up until now. These beliefs, he realizes, are not truths but perceptions that were created based on past experiences, societal conditioning, or the opinions of others. He begins to challenge these old narratives, examining each belief with clarity and objectivity. As he does, he uncovers the power he holds to rewrite these narratives, transforming fear into courage, doubt into confidence, and limitation into possibility. The more he shifts his mindset, the more he witnesses his world reflecting back his inner transformation. The power of thought becomes his constant companion. He understands that his thoughts are not random occurrences, but active creators of his reality. He begins to cultivate a disciplined mind, one that focuses on only those thoughts that align with his highest good. He refuses to entertain thoughts of lack, inadequacy, or unworthiness. Instead, he nurtures thoughts of abundance, strength, and divine purpose. Over time, he sees the effects of this practice in his external life as opportunities flow toward him with ease. Relationships become more harmonious, and an undeniable sense of fulfillment emerges from within. In this deep process of self-realization, the man also finds that his emotions, which were once volatile and unpredictable, begin to stabilize. He recognizes that emotions are not to be suppressed or ignored, but understood and embraced. Each emotion, he learns, is a messenger carrying wisdom about his inner state. When he feels sadness, it is a signal to examine areas of his life that need healing. When he experiences joy, it is a reflection of his alignment with his divine essence. By becoming the observer of his emotions, rather than being at their mercy, he gains mastery over his inner world, which in turn shapes his outer world. With this mastery of thought and emotion, the man begins to explore the depth of his imagination. He understands that imagination is the gateway to all possibilities. It is through imagination that he can create the life he desires, manifesting the dreams that once seemed out of reach. He spends time, each day, visualizing his ideal life, not as a distant future, but as a present reality. He imagines himself living in harmony with others, achieving his goals, experiencing profound peace, and living in abundance. As he immerses himself in these vivid, joyful images, he feels the emotions of success and fulfillment as though they have already come to pass. His imagination becomes a powerful tool for manifestation, a conduit through which he channels his desires into physical form. In his solitude, the man also learns to reconnect with nature. He finds solace in the quiet beauty of the world around him, realizing that nature, too, is an expression of the divine. The wind whispers messages of peace. The trees stand as silent sentinels, embodying strength and endurance, and the stars offer glimpses of the infinite in the vastness of the natural world. He begins to see that he is not isolated, but part of something much greater than himself. He is a single thread in the grand tapestry of life, intricately woven into the very fabric of the universe. This realization fills him with a deep sense of gratitude, for he knows that every part of nature is a reflection of the divine energy that also resides within him. The more the man explores these depths of consciousness, the more he comes to understand the importance of self-love. For much of his life, he had sought love and validation from others. But now he recognizes that true love begins within. He learns to love himself unconditionally, accepting every part of himself, the strengths and weaknesses, the successes and failures, the light and the shadows. He understands that by loving himself, he aligns with the divine love that is always present, and this love becomes the foundation upon which his life is built. It is through this self-love that he finds peace, not in the approval of others, but in the deep knowing that he is worthy of love. simply because he exists through his journey. The man also experiences a deepening of his relationship with the divine. No longer seeking external validation, he turns inward to find a connection that transcends all human relationships. He begins to see that the divine is not a distant, abstract concept, but a living presence within him, always guiding him, always supporting him. This inner presence becomes his constant companion, a source of strength and wisdom that he can always rely on in moments of doubt or confusion. He closes his eyes, connects with this divine presence, and finds the clarity and peace he needs to move forward. He understands that the divine is not separate from him, but is woven into the very fabric of his being. It is this connection that sustains him, and it is this connection that allows him to live a life of purpose and fulfillment. As time passes, the man begins to notice that the external world responds to his inner transformation. He attracts people into his life who mirror the love, peace, and authenticity he has cultivated within his relationships become deeper and more meaningful, built not on the need for validation, but on mutual respect and shared purpose. These new connections are not about filling a void, but about celebrating the fullness that already exists within him. He finds that he can give love freely without expectation, knowing that love is a limitless resource that flows from within. The man's journey into solitude has not been about isolation, but about reconnection. It has been a journey of discovering the vast potential that resides within him, a journey that has revealed to him the truth of his divine nature.